Whether new shooter, longtime gun owner, or even police officer or soldier, your handgun needs a Crimson Trace laser sight or light. Get the confidence and reliability you need to protect family, home, and country. Crimson Trace.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, a look at the cost and cons of gun control, plus the importance of hunter safety, new exclusive guns, and more. To be on the air with Tom, call now at 866-TALK-GUN. Now, here's Tom.
All right. Yes, indeed, this is Gun Talk. I'm Tom Gresham. Glad you could be with us. If you'd like to join us, it's 866-TALK-GUN. You can shoot me an email, tom@guntalk.com. And, of course, over on Twitter, I'm at GunTalk. A lot of things in the news. Now, let's get to one of them right now. We talk about getting intellectual ammunition a lot. Well, you know what? If you're in the Truth Squad, you need that information because you need to refute what is being said out there. Not surprisingly, when President Obama calls for more gun control, a lot of us just kind of sigh and go, really? We've been down this road so many times before, but at the same time, in many cases, we don't have the information we need to refute these calls because we get all these claims and counterclaims and such. Well, there are people who actually do the research and people who put out this, I call it intellectual ammunition. And one of the best at this is Dave Kopel, who has been writing books about guns and gun rights and the Second Amendment for many, many years. Dave joins us right now. Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, Tom?
Excellent. So, it's funny. Just last week on the show, I had a guy call in and says, there's a book out there you ought to take a look at. It's called The Samurai. I said, yeah, I know. The Samurai, The Mounted the Cowboy. Got it. Had it for a long time. In fact, Dave wrote it. So I guess one of the things I ought to talk about, just to start off with, is you've written a whole bunch of books on gun rights and the Constitution and the Second Amendment and how the U.S. compares with other countries. At a certain point, do you kind of look at all of these claims and say, people, would you at least do some research? It's got to be frustrating for you.
Well, the good thing is there's enough people in the middle in American public opinion who actually are interested enough to do some research, and if you can show them that a particular gun law is a good idea or a bad idea based on the facts, they're open-minded about that. And so I think that's one of the reasons we've made a lot of progress over the past quarter century. Is we do have the advantage of having the facts on our side, and that's been enough to convince enough of those swing vote legislators and citizens.
Or another way to put it, I've been telling people that the public in general has a pretty good BS filter. They can look at this and say, okay, a lot of this, what we're being told, doesn't pass the sniff test. And then if they look a little deeper, they find things like your excellent books and your papers and such, and they go, oh, okay, there actually is data behind this. So what I intuitively felt that gun control doesn't make us safer, there's actually data for that.
There is, and you don't know what the data are going to show until you start looking. But in our case, the more you look, the weaker the case for really severe anti-gun laws tends to look.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about this latest effort. It's called The Cost and Consequences of Gun Control. Is this product of the Independence Institute?
No, it's from the Cato Institute. So I work full-time at the Independence Institute, which is a think tank in Denver.
Right.
But since the late 1980s, I've also been an associate policy analyst at the Cato Institute, CATO, which is one of the leading think tanks in Washington, D.C. And so this is what they call a policy analysis, about a 50-page paper for Cato.
So it's called The Cost and Consequences of Gun Control. For those who, we don't have time to read all 50 pages right here, can you kind of tell us what you looked into and how you went about it?
Sure. It's the Cato papers are written for the intelligent generalist. You don't have to be a specialist in the subject, but you have to be someone who's interested and wants a serious look at it. So typical reader might be a legislative aide who's briefing her congressional staff member, here's the new bill on oil exports or on guns or on a million other things. And they trust Cato, I think, on a pretty bipartisan way in Capitol Hill, that even if you don't agree with their point of view, they're going to be reliable and accurate and fair and honest in the facts and figures that they provide. So Cato asked me to do a paper on the current gun control debate, and this one looks at some of the leading anti-gun proposals, bans on so-called assault weapons, magazine bans, so-called universal background checks, and of course the end game that comes out of all this, which the New York Times has, to its credit, been frank about, and even Senator Clinton let the truth slip to some degree, and as well as President Obama, is Australia-style gun confiscation.
I mean, the New York Times actually came out of the closet, I call it. They finally admitted what we knew all along, which was they really are wanting. I mean, ultimately their end game, as you say, is confiscation, not a ban of sale, but an actually pick them up or turn them in.
Right. Drastic reductions in the numbers of firearms currently owned in many broad categories was approximately the words they used.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess the questions are, what did you come up with in terms of both cost, effectiveness of these proposals, and consequences, which I guess is, what do we really get if we get these things?
Well, on a so-called assault weapons, which is, as you know, has been this hoax that's been around since the late 1980s, what I do is I explain what people need to learn the first time they ever start seriously looking at this, which is this is not a law about machine guns, and it's not a law about guns that fire faster than other guns, and it's not a law about guns which have more powerful ammunition than other guns. It's a law that says we're going to prohibit a gun because it has an adjustable stock, or because it has a forward grip in front of the trigger guard. And I explain, including from the point of view of someone who's not familiar with gun mechanics, how this is just crazy, that it's exactly backwards to say we're going to ban a gun because it provides a more comfortable, more ergonomic fit for somebody. That makes the gun better and more accurate. And no rational gun policy would say, well, when guns get accurate, that's when they really cause a problem. That's the one we want to ban, the ones that have folding stocks or forward grips, because they're accurate.
It's actually funny when you say it that way.
It isn't, and this is the fact that we have bans on assault weapons, so-called, in states like Connecticut or New York, and the President of the United States, when we're at war with people who are seeking to kill all the Jews in America and enslave everybody else, that he considers his Oval Office address that it's important enough to bring up an assault weapon ban, tells you that this disinformation, deceit campaign that got very cleverly started in the late 80s is still going strong.
At its core, and you've been a student of this for a long time, as have I, and I try to explain to people that you really, to understand what all of this is about, because there's a lot of misdirection in the gun control industry, and it is exactly that, the gun control or gun ban industry. The misdirection in most cases is don't look at where we want to go with this eventually. Just look at the little increment that we want at the time. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah. It's what's called Fabian tactics from Fabian socialism, which is of England in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, is don't try to enact your socialist utopia overnight. Just keep socializing more and more and more till you'll eventually get what you're after. Although I will also say that the pro-gun movement has learned something from that, and so while there's a lot of people who would say, well, what I really want is what they call constitutional carry, is just anybody who can legally possess a gun can carry it. A lot of people have been willing to accept constructive movement in that direction without having to say we got to go get there all at once, and that's the reason why licensed carry has spread across the country.
Okay, so when you started delving into this, in the cost and consequences of gun control, what do you find? That
a lot of the most popular things don't make much sense and could be really counterproductive. So we talked about assault weapons, which is really saying let's ban guns that have features, as it's called, like folding stock, like adjustable stocks or forward grips, or bayonet lugs, because we know this country, the number of drive-by bayonettings that are taking place, we've just got to do something about it.
Exactly.
And then you talk about magazine ban. You first of all have to explain how magazines work and what a detachable magazine is. And I think that's a it takes a little more explaining, because it is accurate to say when you look at the number, the most popular, type of ban, I suppose, the Bloomberg model ban everything over 10, or as they attempted to do in New York State and ultimately didn't get away with, ban everything over 7, that it is true that in most self-defense situations, people don't fire more than a couple shots. But as I explained, the reserve capacity is tremendously important, because, as violent confrontations are inherently unpredictable, and as every police officer is trained in confrontations, if you see one, there's 2. If you see 2, there's 3. You don't know what's coming next. And, of course, if you're in your home and the victim of an invasion, you may see one guy breaking down the door, but there can be more than one guy out there. You don't necessarily know if the person's wearing body armor or whatever. Mm-hmm. When you cut the reserve capacity, you almost, in a linear mathematical way, cut the number of shots fired. So let's say you take a standard magazine that comes with a regular gun, a handgun of 16 or 17 rounds, and you cut that back to 10 rounds. Well, in a violent confrontation, when somebody's defending their family, it's unlikely that person is going to fire as many as 10. But when you cut the reserve capacity, you're cutting the number of shots that will be fired. Maybe it's the difference between firing, 4 shots versus 2, for example.
Right.
And when you do that, well, when you fire fewer shots at the bad guy, you reduce the bad guy's chance of being injured, which is what's going to stop the attack, and you thereby shift the risk of who's going to get injured in this violent crime from the violent aggressor. You make him safer, and you thereby raise the danger to the innocent victims.
In point of fact, what you're saying is you reduce the effectiveness of a self-defense tool.
Exactly, because the effectiveness depends in part on its reserve. Just like very few people run their gas tank down to 0. But how far you drive between stations, it depends on your reserve capacity. And at least prudent people who are doing serious trips, don't wait till it's a gallon and a half past the empty sign before they refill.
Hey, Dave, hold on a second here. I got to take a quick break. This stuff is just way too good. We cannot let you go. So we'll be right back with more of Dave Kopel right here on Gun Talk.
Who will you trust with your guns and valuables? Liberty safes are the best built and most secure safes on the planet. They sell more gun safes than any other brand. It's about trust earned through performance. If your Liberty safe is damaged by fire or attempted break-in, they'll send a new safe right to your home. Protection from thieves and fire. Trust the #1 maker of quality gun safes. LibertySafe.com.
The Ruger American Rifle is a 100% American-made firearm that offers outstanding performance at a great price. Available in standard size and compact models, it features power bedding integral bedding blocks, a Ruger Marksman adjustable trigger, a flush-fit 4-round rotary magazine, and a 3-lug bolt with 70-degree throw. Compact models feature a shorter length of pull and a shorter barrel for a reduction in overall length of more than 5 inches. The Ruger American Rifle, another rugged and reliable firearm from Ruger.
All right, back with you here. We're talking with Dave Kopel from the Independence Institute and talking about a piece he has written, The Cost and Consequences of Gun Control, and it's put out by the Cato Institute. Dave, let me ask you just a little side trip question here, because you mentioned the magazines, the capacity, you have to explain what a magazine is. I remember not too long ago a legislator, a woman who says, well, if we can just ban these magazines, that way when somebody uses up the ammo in their magazine, it's no good after that.
Yeah, that was Representative Diana DeGette, who's actually the congresswoman from Denver, and I will say I'm friends with her, and she's a longtime family friend. I respect her a lot. I think she's a really good person, but obviously she was she was way out of her head on the facts in getting behind a magazine ban when she obviously didn't know anything about it.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as, saying that the barrel shroud is a shoulder thing that goes up. They really don't know anything about the subject matter, but feel completely justified in saying we have to ban this thing that I don't even know what it is. Yeah,
and in that way, it's sociologists have talked about culture wars and moral panics and things like that, and it's this kind of irresponsibility in terms of knowing what you're talking about before you bring the force of the criminal law down on your fellow Americans. Gail Collins, of the columnist of the New York Times, says semi-automatics, and she's not talking assault weapons, she says semi-automatics in general, have no use for self-defense or hunting. Yeah, but if she knew somebody who hunts, they could tell her that's incorrect. Right. And if she knew anybody who had a gun for self-defense, that person probably owns a handgun in the home, and if she's talking to people in 2015, we know about 82% of new handguns manufactured are semi-autos. So, of course, they're pervasive for self-defense. The semi-automatic handgun is probably the single most common type of self-defense arm in the country. And then she can write this in the New York Times, and there is nobody at the New York Times production staff. Nobody at the New York Times had any clue about how absurd that statement is.
I think probably it goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is this intended confusion between semi-auto and full auto.
Oh, exactly. And so Gail Collins is one of the victims of this very clever scheme that Josh Sugarman, who now runs a group called the Violence Policy Center, thought up in the late 80s, which is, and he said in the strategy memo, when it's still online, the media's gotten bored with handgun bans. We need something new. And the advantage of this assault weapon issue is people will think if it looks like a machine gun, it is a machine gun, and they won't understand the difference between full automatic and semi-automatic. So we got a whole new broad front of gun banning we can open up. And still the intelligent but intellectually lazy set like Ms. Collins of the New York Times show that you can keep a hoax going on 27 years.
All right, this paper, The Cost and Consequences of Gun Control, is that available for people to download or to read?
It is available for free. You can go to my website, davekopel.org, davekopel.org, or on the Cato Institute website, cato.org.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you find in your experience, or I guess more correctly, to what extent do you find in your experience that presenting the facts as you have laid them out, when you can explain semi-autos and how they work and magazines and how they function and all of that, to what extent is that persuasive and able to get people's attention and have them actually change their viewpoint? I
think it's pretty persuasive to everybody except the hardcore gun haters. I mean, there's some people you can explain that to, and they'll really follow the argument. They'll understand what you're saying. But they'll say, yeah, but since we want to ban all guns, banning some guns is a good first start, even if, the particular set of guns we're starting off with on banning isn't really the most dangerous, and it doesn't really make sense as any coherent group. If you can't ban them all at once, ban whatever you can. But I would say outside of that crowd, there's been a lot of the public understands that. And so, for example, Slate magazine, which is not pro-gun in any sense,
no.
They came out with a really good article yesterday which said President Obama's two proposals, gun control proposals, are bad ideas. Going to war on culture war against assault weapons really doesn't make much sense because they're like virtually so-called assault weapons because they're quite rarely used in crime compared to other guns, and it's not going to make much difference one way or the other. And that these secret government blacklists are not a good basis for taking people's constitutional rights away, especially when we know the lists have so many errors and there's no due process for getting off them. And the editorial article went on to say, but we're still in favor of other gun controls, and they listed some. So that shows that even people who have a general anti-gun orientation, some of the intellectually honest ones are willing to say, well, on the gun control tree, there's some fruit we like and some that really is just rotten.
All right, crystal ball this for me, Dave, as we head toward the election, as we head toward more terms of Congress. Do you see an appetite for passing more gun control laws on a national basis? And then also we can move that to the states because I think that's where the real action is.
Well, I would say we had a good vote in Congress just a few days ago in the U.S. Senate when the majority rejected banning people's guns based on secret blacklists and also rejected the Toomey Manchin proposal from back from 2013, which was brought back again. Look, people get pressure from Bloomberg. This is a guy who can go into any state, and if he chooses, he can blanket the airwaves. I mean, he literally could afford to buy every TV advertisement in a particular state between now and Christmas. You know, you'd never find out about the sale of Kentucky Fried Chicken because it would be all he could if he wanted to make it all Bloomberg all the time. Mm-hmm. And so he can carpet bomb people with advertising, as Cheryl Atkinson, the former CBS News reporter, said in a survey of her mainstream media colleagues. They said that the number one AstroTurf, phony grassroots organization pumping out press releases all the time, is the Bloomberg lobby. Mm-hmm. And that is sufficient to take people who are otherwise good and sometimes at least partially flip them. I mean, that's what happened. Pat Toomey, the senator from Pennsylvania, that's mm-hmm. why that anti-gun bill is called Manchin Toomey. And Kelly Ayotte from New Hampshire is under similar kind of pressure. So people, especially in the purple states, legislators who are doing the right thing and standing up for sensible policies and standing up for Second Amendment rights, they need to get positive reinforcement from their pro-Constitution constituents. They need to hear from good guys because they're hearing a lot of power and force from the other side.
Yep, and for those who don't understand, Bloomberg's worth somewhere close to $40 billion now. So for him to go drop $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or $5 million into just a state, and like you say, buy up all the oxygen, all the advertising avails there is nothing. It's like you reaching into your pocket and pulling out $1. That's all that matters to him.
Yeah, it's the difference for you and me between a large Diet Coke and a medium one.
Exactly. Well, look, Dave, I appreciate this. The paper, the newest effort from Dave Kopel, The Cost and Consequences of Gun Control, one of your excellent pieces. And I would advise everybody, I mean, seriously, if you want to be a student of this, and I advise people, become a student of this subject. Frankly, all of your books are excellent. You've been doing this a long time, and even the first ones hold up well right now.
Thank you. And people disagree with my policies sometimes, but I very rarely, I don't get challenged much on the accuracy of my facts and figures and history. I'll also say for folks who like Twitter, I'm on that and pretty active. It's Dave Kopel, DaveKopel.org. And again, on my website, there's a huge amount of material on all kinds of Second Amendment and other subjects, and it's all free because that's what think tanks are for, is to provide educational information to the general public on a not-for-profit basis. More intellectual ammunition for the Truth Squad to use. Dave, thank you for everything you do, and thank you for your time. It was great being there, and thank you for doing a great show, which has also been one of the important things that's made a difference in the outcomes over the last quarter century.
Gun Talk encourages you to support the local sporting goods store, gun stores, ATV dealers, and other local businesses in your area who advertise on this station and Gun Talk. Only together can we protect our rights. You're listening to Washington Times opinion page regular contributor Tom Gresham.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Yes, indeed. It is, well, the last big weekend, big shopping weekend before Christmas, of course. And I know a lot of people are out and about doing things, but we're going to gather together to talk about guns. Yes, indeed, because it's Gun Talk. That's what we're going to be doing. I have some stories. Oh, man, do I ever have some stories to tell. Wow, what a week. A 1,300-yard shot. Visiting with great folks who make cool products, guns, ammunition, bullets. Visit with the folks at Cerakote, the cool coatings for your guns. And then there was this episode, Honest. That tree just came out of nowhere. We never saw it coming. At least that's what my explanation was to the rental car company. It truly is a good story. I'm not kidding you now. Yeah. You can run a rental car with half of it smashed away. About 50 miles worth we drove that son of a gun. Holy cow. Note to self, glad we did. Always get full coverage. Wow, we'll have more about that as we go along. It was a survival tale that ended up, it's like a lot of these things. When it's over and everybody's okay, you go, wow, that was a great story. Cool, that was kind of interesting. Nobody got hurt. Everybody got to go home? Well, nobody got hurt. That didn't count the rental car. Just the way it works out sometimes. Our number is 866-TALK-GUN. If you'd like to join us, we're pretty much open lines today, whatever you want to talk about. We'll have a few guests joining us as we go through the day. But thinking about the guns you're buying, the guns you're thinking about buying, in fact, just other stuff. I was thinking about this morning, and White House spokesman is saying, yep, we're going to have executive action on gun control. And a few days ago, President Obama met with gun banner Michael Bloomberg, former New York mayor, to talk specifically about gun control, controlling you. Of course, gun control doesn't mean controlling guns. It means controlling you. It's about restricting you and what you can do. It has nothing to do with restricting criminals because they, of course, by definition, ignore the law. So what they have to do is say, well, we'll do something. We will control the law-abiding people. We will restrict the law-abiding people. We will take guns away from. Oh, no one wants to take your guns away, Tom. They used to say that. And yet now we have the New York Times saying we need gun confiscation. We have newspapers around the country saying we must confiscate guns. We have a bill introduced in the House of Representatives. I'm talking about the United States Congress. It was introduced by Representative Donald Payne Jr. from New Jersey to introduce a national gun buyback program. It is a mere half step from that to you must turn them in. But, of course, we're going to give you money for them, so it's not really confiscation, except, of course, you go to jail if you don't. Yeah, that part of it. But the whole deal of, nobody wants to take your guns away, I think we're well past that. We always knew that they did, but they hid it pretty well. Now, every once in a while, they'd come out and say, hey, we do want to take your guns away, but not often. But now they kind of feel that it's okay to come out of the closet, to come out of the weeds, to come out of the darkness and say, yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, our plan all along was to take your guns away, and now we're out there and we're calling for it. We have newspaper editorials around the country saying, yeah, nothing else has worked. The bad guys keep being bad, and the terrorists are just terrorists. So maybe if we take the guns away from the law-abiding people, it's going to make bad people better. It'll make terrorists go away. I know, it leaves you kind of like scratching your head and going, what? What did they just say? But that's where we are. Now, compare that to a poll that was just taken. ABC News and Washington Post poll shows that for the first time in 20 years, a majority of Americans oppose a ban on so-called assault weapons. Let me say that again. For the first time in 20 years, a majority of Americans oppose a ban on so-called assault weapons. What they mean by assault weapons, of course, it's just semi-automatic rifles. But according to this poll, ABC, Washington Post, national poll, 53% of Americans oppose a ban on assault weapons. That's fairly interesting. What it tells me is that we are finally breaking through, and people understand that these are just rifles. They're just regular old rifles. They work the same as that rifles have for 100 years. They work the same as duck hunting shotguns have for nearly 100 years. They work the same as handguns have for a century. They are simply self-loading. That is, when you pull the trigger, it goes bang, and it puts a new cartridge into the chamber of the gun. It does not go bang more than once when you pull the trigger. There's nothing new about it. There's nothing sinister about it. Now, as Dave Kopel just said, however, what is different about them is they look scary. They have a grip, so you can actually hold on to it. Imagine that. And they're lightweight. Oh, my goodness. So that more people can actually use them. And they're accurate. Oh, the humanity. So therefore, of course, because they are black, we have to ban them. Oh, they also take a magazine. Yeah, but the thing is, 50 years ago, actually 52, 53 years ago, when I went on my first deer hunt, when I killed my first deer, you know what I used? I used a semi-automatic rifle with a detachable box magazine. Almost exactly the thing that they are saying now that they want to ban. Because, of course, it's new, and it's different, and it's military style. And what other use could there be for this other than killing massive quantities of people? Except that they're hardly ever used for that. In fact, according to the FBI, more people in the United States are killed with fists and feet than they are with all rifles, and semi-autos are just a subset of that. 866-TALK-GUN. When you're talking to your friends, when you're talking to people, what are they saying about this? In the wake of the San Bernardino terror attacks, are they buying guns? A lot of people are. 866-TALK-GUN.
In the war on terror, fighting crime in the streets, in competition and homes around the world, one name in firearms stands out: Sig Sauer. Our pistols and rifles are renowned for their unfailing performance. This same commitment to excellence can be found in our line of SigTac accessories and the training offered by the Sig Sauer Academy. For unmatched quality, reliability, and innovation when it counts, choose Sig Sauer. Visit sigsauer.com today.
The world can be a dangerous place. Gear up with the industry's original and most trusted laser sighting system from Crimson Trace. Equipping your firearm with laser and light systems will enhance your effectiveness and help keep you and your family out of harm's way. Call 800-442-2406 or visit crimsontrace.com and receive a free copy of our new laser training video, The Laser's Edge. Crimson Trace.
You're at a gun store and your phone tells you about hot deals. Want to know about special offers? No problem when you have GunDealio, the free app for your smartphone. GunDealio delivers the latest deals on guns, ammo, and extras direct to your phone. Don't overpay for your shooting gear. Get GunDealio. It's free at the App Store and Google Play. Trigger the deals with GunDealio. GunDealio.com.
The XDM 3.8 Compact from Springfield Armory is 2 guns in 1. Use as your concealed carry gun with a compact magazine and use the extended magazine for home defense. Carry 13 rounds of 9mm in the compact magazine and a whopping 19 rounds in the extended magazine. To see the entire family of Springfield Armory XDM pistols, go to springfieldarmory.com. That's springfieldarmory.com.
It's time for the Brownells Trivia Question. Brownells, serious about firearms since 1939. Are you a gun know-it-all? Well, you may have a chance to win the Brownells GUNTALK FN SCAR 17S Dream Gun and a trip to the NRA show in Louisville, Kentucky, May 19th through the 22nd. Here we go. Shotgun bores are typically measured in gauge instead of caliber. How is gauge determined? The outer diameter of the rim of the shot shell, the number of yards that the shot pattern can cover a rabbit-sized target, or the number of solid lead balls the same diameter of the bore that it takes to weigh 1 pound. To answer and have a chance to win, go to brownells.com/guntalk. That's brownells.com/guntalk. When it comes to firearms, Brownells has more, knows more, and does more, and guarantees it all forever. Brownells is serious about firearms.
All right, back with the 866 Talk Gun to get you in there. A lot of things going on around here. We got big Gun Talk welcomes for new stations carrying Gun Talk. This is very cool stuff. Let's see. WGST, AM 640 in Atlanta, Georgia. KBUL 970 AM and KCHH 95.5 FM in Billings, Montana, and WFLN 1480 AM in Arcadia, Florida. All welcome to the Big Gun Talk Network. 200 plus stations and growing all the time. Line 3, Justin has joined us out of Anchorage, Alaska. Justin, you got a story and a gun.
Yes, sir. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm good. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too, brother. Honored to talk to you. So first I'd like to tell everybody out there about an experience I have with Dirty's Guns. I called them about a 375 Remington Ultra Mag that I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And, man, they answered the phone right away, and great service, great guys. They called me back right away, and those guys are awesome. Just wanted to say what a good company that is. Yeah, the folks at DurysGuns.com, they're incredible. So what'd you end up with? What do you got there? Well, so I've got a LWRC 6.8 SPC. Fabulous weapon. They call it the 6.8 Razorback. And loving the gun. And I have a AAC SDN6 suppressor that I'm running on it.
Sweet.
The problem I'm having is the 6.8 doesn't have a gas switch, and the cycles, it functions wonderfully, and I probably put about 100 rounds through it. Got the thing home, and the bolt carrier group is so dirty. It looks like it's been corroded. It looks like it, Tom, it looks like it's been corroded. I've never seen it this bad.
Well, and you can shoot that thing all day long without the suppressor, and it stays clean. You stick a suppressor on it, all you're doing is just shoving all that dirty, nasty powder and gas and stuff back in the gun. It's kind of the nature of the beast. It's, you know what? It just is what it is when you're shooting suppressed.
Okay. I couldn't figure it out. I thought that the gas was coming out the gas port, and I was saying, well, if the gas is coming out the gas port, how is it getting back into the mag well and making that bolt carrier group that corroded, looking dirty? It took me, I put every solvent and cleaner on there you could think of to get it clean. And I said, shoot, if I got to deal with this, I'm not suppressing that thing.
Well, but, I mean, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, you know what you may want to do is one of the things that helps a lot is if you, I've been using these products from the Slip 2000 guys. They kind of turned me on to this. And I'll tell you one thing I found. It sounds like salesmanship, but it is true. If you basically take care of your gun with that EWL Extreme Weapons Lube, it makes the gun easier to clean after you shoot it. So get it really, really clean. They have a thing called Carbon Killer. I mean, it will eat through all of that carbon and all that junk. It is amazing stuff. And it's non-toxic. I also like that because some of these solvents, I'll tell you, they kind of scare me. It's kind of like, I don't really want that stuff on my hands. And this stuff, you can stick your fingers in it and dip it and all that. But the Carbon Killer, clean it all up really well with that and then give it, a good coating. The thing with ARs, we used to tell people, don't over-lube your guns. You've heard that. With ARs, that's kind of almost impossible. The guns... And some of the experts keep telling me, man, these guns like to run wet. Keep them wet. So I would try that at least. Try the Slip 2000 products. By the way, if you contact them, slip2000.com with the number slip2000.com, they will send you free samples. Just tell them you heard it on Gun Talk. They'll send you the free stuff. Try that out. But get it really, really clean. And I know it's a pain. It really is. One of the things about that Carbon Killer, drop your... suppressor down in it and soak it and then pull it out and you clean it out that way. But pretty good stuff. And they've got a lot of information on their website. But we've all discovered this. When you shoot suppressed, it gets dirty. If you really want to get dirty, shoot a handgun suppressor and get it wet. Sometimes people like to shoot their suppressors wet and then it blows back all that wet, nasty stuff all over your face. It's lovely. Not. But hey, you know what? It's still fun. Oh well. 866-TALK-GUN gets you in here. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk. All right, we're back with you. Tom Gresham, 866-TALK-GUN will get you in here. Let's see here. Go to Bill on line 1 in Shreveport, Louisiana. Bill, you're running into a problem here, huh?
Hey, how you doing today? I'm here talking to you.
Good. What's been going on here?
I collect firearms, and over the last 7 months, I've bought 6 guns, and I've been denied. It all started about 7 months ago. I was just wondering if that's they changing the way they do background checks, or exactly what's going on.
So let me make sure I understand. You're getting a delay. It basically denies, and does it come back? At what point can you buy?
Well, so far where I've bought them, they have not heard a response back. But once you get denied, it's up to the store whether they sell it to you or not. And I've had several that I've bought, paid for, it comes back, and then they give me my money back, tell me, we can't sell to you.
Okay, the thing is, you're getting delayed. You're not getting denied, it sounds like to me. I mean, it's coming back as a no, or is it coming back as a delay?
It's coming back, I guess it's delayed.
Okay, well, if it's delayed, the store after 3 days, if they don't get a denial, they can sell you the gun. Some will, some won't. Here's my question for you, though. What have you done to contact the FBI and the NICS check people to find out what's going on?
I haven't contacted nobody yet. I guess I need to do that.
Yeah, more than likely something has popped up. It's either it's been put on your record incorrectly, or you have a name that's the same as somebody else that has a similar name, in which case you may want to start using your Social Security number or something else on those. But absolutely contact them and say, hey, look, I'm getting these delays. What's going on here? Can we get my record straight? I mean, even the FBI and the NICS check, they don't want you to be denied if you're not supposed to be, or delayed. So you have to pick this up. Okay, Michelle is telling me, get the NICS number. You need to track this. So when they call the store, get the information from the store on the delay or the denial, and then use that when you contact the FBI on this. But you need to get this fixed, or it's just going to keep happening every time.
Okay. Well, I'll start that tomorrow then.
There you go. I appreciate it. I wish you luck with it. But yeah, if it's popping up every time it just started, I mean, unless you had a, some kind of a court order, restraining order, something like that, that can cause something. So, I'm not saying that this is an error. It may be that something has actually happened that's caused this, because there are things that could have popped up on the record, but it happens all the time that you have the same name as somebody else and you get delayed. You got to get it fixed. And, good point. Pending charges count. So even if you're not convicted, that can cause a problem. But if lacking anything like that, get it straightened out, or in fact, just find out what's going on. Just contact them and say, look, this is what's going on. This is who I am. And they'll have different ways to identify you. And say, can you tell me what's going on? Why am I getting delayed? Why am I getting denied? What's showing up on my records? And let's see if we can, get the records straight. So, I mean, that's what I would do with that. So, the process. Well, the other thing that's happening right now is, if you've been to a gun store in the last few weeks, lots of people in gun stores. I have heard accounts as much as 400% increases in some places of people buying guns right after the San Bernardino terrorist shooting. And people have kind of figured it out. If that happens where I am, I need to have some way of protecting myself and my family and my kids. And calling 911 does not qualify. So just kind of be aware of that. Tell you what, speaking of Christmas buying and getting guns, when we come back, we're going to be talking about some people who have a lot of guns, and they make it very easy for you to get them. If you have not completed all of your shopping yet, or if you still would like to maybe pick up a gun, you don't want to go far, because we've got the information how you can do that. Get it fast, get it right, and get it at a good price. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.